And the way she dismantled her opponent proves a new kind of threat has just arrived.
What happens when you mix the deadly martial arts legacy of an action icon with the raw power of a new wrestling force? For years, wrestling has been defined by famous families, but they've never seen a legacy quite like this. This is the story of how Steven Seagal's daughter, Arissa LeBruck, didn't just step into the ring for her debut. She came to make a statement. And the way she dismantled her opponent proves a new kind of threat has just arrived. The legacy! Some people are born with a silver spoon. Arissa LeBruck was born with a target on her back, caught between two completely different, yet equally iconic worlds, to really get her journey into the brutal arena of professional wrestling. You have to understand the sheer weight of the name she carries. Her father is Steven Seagal. For an entire generation, that name meant a unique brand of cinematic violence. In the late 80s and early 90s, Seagal wasn't just another action star. He was a phenomenon. As a legit 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, he brought a terrifying authenticity to the screen. His films above the law, Hard to Kill, Under Siege weren't about flashy, choreographed fights. They were about the cold, calculated destruction of his enemies. Wrists snapped, bones were broken, and it all happened with a stoic intensity that made you believe he could do it in real life. This wasn't just acting. It was a demonstration of a dangerous craft. That's one half of her legacy. The pressure to live up to a reputation as a legitimate, dangerous fighter. The other half, Hollywood glamour personified. Her mother is Kelly LeBruck, an icon of the 1980s. She was the literal dream girl for millions. From The Woman in Red to the classic sci-fi comedy Weird Science, Kelly LeBruck defined an era of stardom. She was a supermodel who conquered Hollywood, a world of red carpets, magazine covers, and global fame. But after a tumultuous and very public divorce from Seagal, Kelly did something drastic. She ran away from it all. She fled to a ranch to raise her children far from the spotlight, wanting them to grow up around real people, not the illusion of fame. This is the wild dichotomy. Arissa was born into deadly martial arts discipline on one side and high-fashion superstardom on the other. It's a combo that creates an insane level of expectation. How do you carve out your own identity when one parent is a symbol of real combat and the other is a symbol of iconic beauty? Every move is watched. Every choice questioned. 4 years, Arissa did forge her own path, becoming a successful plus-size model and a voice for body positivity. She even starred in a reality show aptly named Growing Up Supermodel. But underneath it all, a different fire was burning to passion that connected more to her father's world, but was entirely her own. Arissa began seriously training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This wasn't a celebrity hobby. She was a dedicated competitor, earning medals and building a foundation of legitimate combat skill. It was this unique blend of charisma and combat that set the stage for a shocking career change, a leap into a world that would test her in every way imaginable. She wasn't just going to be a wrestler. She was going to have to fight for the right to be called one. The crushing setback. In December 2019, the wrestling world got the news. Arissa LeBruck, the model and BJJ practitioner, was set for a WWE tryout at their world-renowned performance center in Orlando. This was it. The moment her two worlds could finally merge. She had the look from her mother's side and the legitimate athletic background from her father's. She seemed like a can't-miss prospect for the biggest wrestling company on the planet. The WWE Performance Center is a pressure cooker. It's where dreams are made, but it's also where countless others are shattered. For Arissa, this wasn't just an audition. It was a chance to prove she was more than a famous name. She was surrounded by elite athletes, all fighting for one of the most coveted contracts in sports entertainment. The tryouts are a grueling, multi-day affair designed to push you to your absolute limit. And then, just like that, the dream was ripped away. The specific details are private, but the outcome was catastrophic. Shortly after her tryout, Arissa suffered a severe, dream-crushing injury. This wasn't something that would sideline her for a few weeks. It was a kind of injury that ends careers before they even start. The physical toll was huge, but the psychological damage was arguably worse. The door to her dream hadn't just closed, it was slammed shut. For someone with other options, this would have been a clear sign to quit. Wrestling is an unforgiving business, and her body had seemingly rejected it in the most brutal way possible. The journey was over. The story of Arissa LeBrock, the wrestler, was destined to become a what-if footnote in wrestling history. She disappeared from the wrestling radar completely. Arissa later admitted she had fallen into a deep, dark place, saying, "I had become comfortable in the darkest, worst place in my life." It seemed the dream had turned into a nightmare. For all intents and purposes, it was over. The path to redemption. In wrestling, the best stories are about redemption. While Arissa was in that dark place, her body broken, her phone rang. On the other end was a voice that understood struggle, a voice that knew the weight of a famous last name. It was Dustin Rhodes. If you don't know who Dustin Rhodes is, he's not just some trainer, he's wrestling royalty. As the son of the legendary American Dream Dusty Rhodes, he's lived his entire life under the microscope of legacy. He gets the pressure and the fight to prove you belong. He's a master of reinvention, from the natural to the bizarre and brilliant Goldust in WWE. A character so ahead of its time, it remains iconic. Now, as a respected veteran coach in All Elite Wrestling, he's considered one of the sharpest minds in the business. Dustin didn't see a failure. He saw an athlete with a legitimate combat sports background, raw power, and a story that was far from finished. He offered her a second chance, not a shortcut, but a lifeline. An invitation to move to Austin, Texas, and train from scratch at his school. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy? For Arissa, that call was the jolt she needed. It shook her from what she called her comfortable darkness. She made a life-changing decision. She accepted. She packed her bags, left California behind, and went all in on the grind. The Rhodes Wrestling Academy was a world away from the polished WWE Performance Center. This was an old, no frills, no special treatment. Here, she wasn't Steven Seagal's daughter. She was just another student. The process was grueling. She worked with a personal trainer to rebuild her body, making it stronger to ensure the injury that derailed her first chance wouldn't define her second. 4 months, she drilled the fundamental staking bumps, running the ropes, and learning the chain wrestling that forms the foundation of a believable match. Under Dustin's guidance, she learned how to translate her skills into the unique language of pro wrestling. Her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became the core of her new identity in the ring. Dustin saw the dedication. You could hear the pride in his voice when he said, "She's doing a great job, but this is only the beginning for her," before making a bold prediction. Pretty soon, the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock. Coming from a legend like Dustin, that's a massive vote of confidence. After months of sweat and starting over, the moment of truth finally arrived. But before we break down the dominant debut that put everyone on notice, if you're enjoying this story of resilience, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories reshaping the world of wrestling. The debut match analysis in March 2023, after months of relentless hard work. Arissa LeBrock graduated from the Rhodes Wrestling Academy and competed in its student showcase. This was her official in-ring debut. It wasn't in a giant arena under TV lights. It was in an intimate Texas setting, in front of a small but passionate crowd, the kind that understands the journey it takes just to step through those ropes. This was real. This was earned. When she made her entrance, she wasn't a model or a celebrity's daughter. She was a survivor. She was a professional wrestler. The transformation was immediate. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, a cold, focused intensity that was unnervingly similar to her father's on-screen persona. She walked to the ring with the focused calm of a predator. Her debut came in a tag team match, but from the moment she was tagged in, it was clear she was anything but common. The match became a showcase for a style that was both shocking and compelling. The first thing that stood out was the raw power. Her strikes weren't for show. They landed with a thud that echoed through the venue. She moved her opponents around the ring with brute force, tossing them with a dismissive ease. But this was intelligent power, and that's where her BJJ background came into play with devastating effect. When the match went to the mat, She was on another level. Her opponents would try a standard wrestling hold, and Arissa would fluidly counter into a legitimate submission attempt. You could see her BJJ instincts take over as she controlled her opponent's posture and hunted for a finish. She wasn't just performing moves. She was applying a combat discipline, creating a sense of danger you don't always see. You believed she could snap a limb or choke someone out at will? At one point, she trapped an opponent in the corner and delivered a series of brutal, short-range strikes efficient, violent, and terrifyingly effective. This was the hybrid style Dustin Rhodes helped her forge. It was the raw power of a wrestling monster mixed with the technical submission skill of a trained martial artist. The finish was a perfect summary of this new identity. It was quick and decisive. She didn't win with a flashy move. She won by simply overpowering her opponent, ending the match with a devastating slam that left no doubt who the superior force was. The crowd, which had been watching with curiosity, they had witnessed the birth of something new. This wasn't just a debut, it was a statement. She had beaten the injury, beaten the self-doubt, and finally stepped out of her parents' massive shadows and into the squared circle on her own terms. The aftermath and future! The ripples from that small showcase in Texas spread quickly. Arissa LeBrock was no longer just a prospect. She was a performer. Dustin Rhodes' prediction that pretty soon the whole world's going to be talking about Arissa LeBrock started to feel less like a hopeful endorsement and more like an inevitable prophecy. The debut proved her journey was the foundation for a genuinely formidable competitor. The wrestling world is filled with second and third generation talents, but Arissa brings something different. She carries not just a wrestling connection, but a legitimate martial arts legacy, giving her an aura of authenticity you just can't manufacture. Since that debut, her journey has been one of quiet, steady growth on the independent circuit. This is where wrestlers truly pay their dues-long car rides, small crowds, and earning respect one match at a time. By choosing this path, she's proven her passion is real, and she isn't just coasting on her famous name. This brings us to the big question. What's next? The wrestling landscape is a battleground between two titans, WWE and AEW. Both are fascinating potential destinations. WWE was clearly interested once, and her stock has only skyrocketed since that 2019 tryout. She's now a more polished and powerful prospect with a comeback story that fans can connect with. A return to WWE, maybe starting in their NXT brand, would be a story of finishing what she started, of conquering the very mountain that once rejected her. On the other hand, there's AEW, the home of her mentor, Dustin Rhodes. The company often prides itself on a more sports-centric presentation, where her legitimate BJJ skills and brutal style could be perfectly showcased. Joining a mentor in AEW would feel like a natural progression, a chance to build a new empire in the company that gave her a second chance when her career seemed over. Arissa LeBrock's story is a powerful lesson in resilience. She started out carrying the weight of two iconic names, a shadow that could have easily defined her. Her path was anything but easy, marked by a dream-crushing injury and a struggle that would have broken most people. Yet, she refused to let her story end there. Guided by a wrestling legend who understood her burden, she rebuilt herself from scratch, trading comfort for the grind. The door to WWE may have closed on her once, but she didn't just wait for it to reopen. She went out and built her own entrance, brick by painful brick. She is no longer just the daughter of Hollywood stars trying to be a wrestler. She is a wrestler. Period. So, the question is no longer if she belongs, but where she will ultimately make her mark. What do you think is the best move for Arissa LeBrock? Should she return to WWE to finish the story that started at that fateful tryout? Or would her brutal, legitimate style be a better fit alongside her mentor in AEW? Let us know your dream scenario in the comments below.
And the way she dismantled her opponent proves a new kind of threat has just arrived.